it is officially the next day. The Battle Wagon paint is unchanged overnight. It is not self-repairing as most battle vehicles are. I'm not gonna say it's early in the morning, but I just got up because I might have gotten into the liquor cabinet last night. But either way, I'm doing this as early as I can. Now that it's sit, it should be cured on a little bit better. I'm gonna retape off some areas and try to fill in some of these gaps on this side and then really repair the other side. The driver's side is definitely the worst of the two. The black both above and below the tongue has ripped off. Huge sections that have peeled off when the tape and the masking came off. This little tear in the red I'm not horribly worried about because it's just a small section right up against the edge of the black. I can just hit that with black and the tongue line will look a little more jagged, but a tooth will probably cover a good portion of that, so it's not a huge deal. Continuing with the hangover paint job, this is undoubtedly the most botched masking job I've ever even considered painting with in my life, but fuck it, Battle Wagon. So my concern is very much the same as it was the other day, where I'm not positive if it's going to peel up the undercoat, so I'm going to go very cautiously again and try to not ruin the whole thing. One thing you'll probably notice that I did is when I was peeling over the red, I started in the center and peeled towards the edges. Over here I started at the edge and kind of peeled down, thinking I was going to cut away from the line I just sprayed, but that was actually starting to grip the edge of the red and rip up the red as I did that. You've already got a layer of plastidip down below. Grab towards the center of it if it's well adhered, like this has been sitting overnight, and then peel center out. That way you don't rip the edge across the whole thing. At this point, I gotta let this side dry and adhere better before I can template up the teeth and spray those on, so I'm gonna move on to the other side, get that masked, and continue. So now side 2 is masked, and again, it's not very pretty. What I'm most worried about is both above and below the red tongue piece is the black got stripped up yesterday, so all of the red had to get masked off, and I'm really worried that's gonna peel off. I did leave a little bit of a lip, you can see top and bottom, and I'm hoping that little bit of a lip is enough that when I peel it, I'm still gonna go center out, but I'm hoping that's enough that I'm not grabbing the edge and stripping the whole thing. It's also gonna fill in a little bit of the gap from where the red started to peel yesterday. I'm hoping it just covers that up. This whole section looks botched, so I'm not gonna get a clean line there, but I'm hoping the teeth cover that anyhow in the final result. Let's see how this goes, and it's not gonna look worse, right? You know, worst case, fuck it, Battle Wagon, put some bullet holes in the fender, and it'll all be good. Just sprayed and peeled the driver's side, and you can still see right here where it comes to more of a point that is still a little bit frayed. As I was worried about before, the pieces of tape to get in there to try to get that taper, because I was doing both above and below, were pretty small, and it was right on a thin stretch of that red. It did kind of start to peel a bit. It did grip the black because it just took so long to get all those small pieces off that it had just enough tack to start tearing. Everything else, I mean, you can clearly see was patched if you look, but ready for this Battle Wagon magic? Cool, now it looks great. Let that sit for a while, probably a couple hours to get a better adhesion. While we're doing that, I'm gonna get a template going for both the eyes and the teeth on both sides. Hopefully this dries nicely and gets a better adhesion, and I can tape to it again without having to redo it again, because that would be rather annoying at this point. I've started masking the general outline in order to do the teeth, but as you can see, I've gone just outside of the actual plastidip, because as I said earlier, it was grabbing the edges and pulling them up when you started peeling. It's gonna physically hold the template a little bit inside of that line and risk the overspray going up to that point, because frankly that's the lesser of two evils. And in a kindergarten throwback, to get a better outline of the eye, to make a better template of that, I just grabbed some 8.5 by 11 computer printer paper and just took the graphite and rubbed it back and forth to catch all the edges. This way I can just cut it out on this and then transfer it to the actual thicker poster board, because that was too thick to get a good outline through. Since I have the outline for the eye, what I did is I just outlined to the inside the whole way around to get that nice black stripe on the outside. And then using the inside of the electrical tape roll, I made the semicircle about where I thought the eye should be. I have to outline it 2 or 3 times like I did to just get the positioning just right. I had it too high, then too low, then too far out. Make sure you put it on the car, you get a good idea of how it's actually going to look lined up with everything else. Keep in mind it's going to look ridiculous no matter what, but I mean, why else would you do something stupid like this with your money? Once you have the eye template all drawn out to your liking, tape a piece of the poster board to the back of it or whatever you're using for your template. You don't want it shifting around as you're cutting. Then I just traced it with this utility knife. We have an X-Acto knife. It's the same thing. The straight edges, I use the pencil as a straight edge to get the width correct. And also, this should go without saying, but make sure you're cutting on something that you don't care about. I use this old block. Don't want to do it on your paint or something stupid. Sad that I have to say that, but I know even though I said it, someone is gonna fuck it up. Once you're done, take it, lay it up again, make sure you're happy with it. It's much easier to redo it now than it is to redo it after you've already painted it. The kindergarten crew has struck again, and I outlined the entire mouth shape, and you can also see the tongue shape a little bit there. So taped all these seams together. We did the same thing where we traced it out on the computer printer paper and then came over here, drew what we wanted for the teeth, and then transferred it to the poster board to get a nice thicker template. So this is the final template that we have, and now we can just transfer to the other side of the car when we're done. Basically though, the issue is I didn't want to tape on the more freshly sprayed plastidip again, especially in these areas that I patched, because I was worried it was going to peel it off again. Instead, what we're doing is just going to put some gloves on. We have to press it down to get the edges the whole way as we spray it, which is going to be a nightmare. And I'm very worried about getting clean lines on this, but not a whole lot of other options if we don't want to risk peeling up the other undercoats in every single spot. Down here to kind of blend it, we're going just past where the red tongue marks are, going all the way up to the edge here. This is how the teeth are going to line up. I'm not too worried about here because frankly it's just going to shoot through and everything below it that I care about is covered. Grab the white plastidip. We're going to pray that it doesn't come out super thin and runny like the red did the other day. Fingers crossed, I guess. So as you can see, the white was definitely a little more runny than we anticipated with the black. We definitely got a little overspray, which we knew was going to happen. Overall, it actually covered well enough. And worst case, if you're trying to do this, it doesn't get the full coverage. It gives you a little more of a faded look, which isn't really that bad in this case. I'm not going to show it, but we're going to go do the other side, the same thing, once the template dries enough to reapply it, and then this car will be done. I'll do a walk around. Here's the final templating on the driver's side of the vehicle. If you're trying this at home, if you got a seam like this, because it's folding different ways depending on what side of the car you're on, it might not line up perfect on the other side. Also, your base shape is probably not perfect either. So what we just had to do was take apart these seams for our 2 poster boards and then just retape it. And after we did that, it went together much better and it lined up much nicer to our undercoating. I'm not going to show this side, but it's going to be the same thing where we hold down the template and spray over it, and I'll show the finished result. Ready for it? Here is the final Battle Wagon paint. It's not perfect. You definitely can see the overspray. Anything that goes up onto the fenders or the hood, you can just kind of wipe away. You're really not going to be able to do that unless you go back and clean up all the lines. Definitely had an issue with the white dripping on the first eye. It's a fucking plastic spray job to look like an airplane on a 13-year-old Forester, so who cares? And with that said, the driver's side actually came out much cleaner because we did a bunch of really light coats really fast and just didn't let it pool. I almost think the passenger side mouth came out better. This line is a little more uneven at least through the arc. Definitely think the eye here came out good, and honestly, when you're 10 feet away with the overspray, you're not gonna see that. Who cares? I think this is the most ridiculous paint job a Forester has probably ever received. Am I really worried about it being absolutely perfect? No. I mean, this whole project, including the lower half of the car, costs, I think, about $70 total for the whole vehicle. So I'm thinking it's looking pretty good. The only thing I have left that I might want to do is this badge is all chromed, which I hate. It's also chipped to hell, so I'm thinking I'll probably black that out with the same plastidip color. I already got the badges all the way around otherwise. And then the only other thing I can think of, I don't really like these clear inserts or this dead spider mod in my turn signal and reverse lights, so I'll probably smoke those out as well. Only that part. I don't want to do the whole thing because frankly, if you do that, you're just a jackass. So there you have it. The Battle Wagon is starting to take its final form. It is looking no worse than it did. So yeah, nailed it. Up my nose again, man. Before you can do the tongue, I'll talk about it later, whatever.